You'd think Lamborghini, the brand that builds cars which look like they're designed for Batman's weekend trips to Monaco, would have smashed F1. Nope. Their brief fling in the late 80s and early 90s was a masterclass in how not to do it. They built an engine. It sounded glorious. Pure Italian opera with a V12 soundtrack. Teams bolted it in, expecting instant magic. Instead, they got reliability so bad the thing made Windows Vista look stable. The engine was heavy, guzzled fuel, and was about as useful in a race as a chocolate teapot. Even McLaren flirted with Lamborghini power in 1993. Ayrton Senna tested the car and loved the noise, but the team dumped it instantly for a more sensible Peugeot deal. That's right, they chose Peugeot over Lamborghini. If that's not insulting, nothing is. Imagine asking someone if they want a raging bull or a sensible baguette, and they choose the baguette. Brutal. Lambo even launched their own team in 1991, called Modena, painted bright turquoise, looking like toothpaste on wheels. It lasted one season, scored 0 points, and was so hopelessly underfunded the mechanics probably had to pay for lunch themselves. Since then, rumors pop up every few years. Lamborghini to F1? But the brand always smirks, revs a V12, and goes back to selling Aventadors to Dubai princes. It's the ultimate irony. The most flamboyant brand in the world, terrified of the one stage that could match their drama. Rolls-Royce in F1? Please. That's like seeing the Queen in a UFC cage fight. Not happening. Sure, Rolls supplied engines for aircraft in wars, but when it came to Formula One, they acted like the sport was beneath them. Racing was messy, loud, full of people sweating. Rolls preferred chauffeurs, champagne flutes, and cars that doubled as drawing rooms. In the 1960s, there were whispers of a Rolls-Royce F1 project. Engineers drew sketches, then the accountants saw the numbers and basically fainted. Why waste millions proving your engines at 20,000 RPM when your customers were more concerned with how softly the rear seats reclined? And you can picture it, right? A Rolls-Royce pit stop, mechanics wearing tuxedos, tire guns replaced by silver tea trays. A strategy call announced in perfect Oxford English. Sir, I regret to inform you that we may require new tires. By the time they finish the sentence, the race is over. The closest Rolls ever got was supplying parts to other manufacturers, always behind the curtain, never in the spotlight. They left the dirty business of winning races to brands like Ferrari and Mercedes, while they stuck to the far more important task of making sure billionaires could whisper "It's so smooth, darling" in the back seat. Now here's the weird one. Porsche did race in F1, and technically, they even won. In the 1980s, they built the legendary TAG turbo engines for McLaren, which powered Niki Lauda and Alain Prost to multiple championships. Job done, right? But when Porsche tried to enter under their own name in 1991, disaster. Their V12 engine was overweight, underpowered, and about as competitive as a milk float. Footwork arrows, the unlucky team forced to run it, basically used the thing as ballast. By mid-season, they ripped it out and replaced it with a Cosworth. Porsche packed up their toys and went home. Fans have been teasing them ever since. Porsche, kings of endurance racing, masters of Le Mans, but allergic to F1. And it's true. Every time a new Porsche F1 rumor surfaces, people get excited, and then Stuttgart suddenly remembers, oh wait, this is expensive, political, and brutally unforgiving. Back to Le Mans they go. The embarrassment was so deep that Porsche basically wiped 1991 from its company memory. They don't put that engine in the museum. They don't even whisper about it at the Christmas party. Meanwhile, their Le Mans garage is overflowing with trophies. It's the ultimate irony. Porsche is one of the greatest racing names in history, but in F1, they're remembered for one of the worst engines ever built. Stuttgart's biggest nightmare is that people might remember that before their 19 Le Mans victories. Bugatti makes cars that cost more than small countries' GDPs, but F1, not their thing. They did try, once, in 1956, with the Type 251. It was radical, with a mid-engine layout years before everyone else copied the idea. Except, it was a complete flop. The car was overweight, underdeveloped, and retired from its only race faster than you can say, Chiron. Bugatti never came back. Since then, Bugatti stuck to hypercars for oligarchs, rappers, and YouTubers who love revving in underground car parks. They occasionally drop hints. What if Bugatti joined F1? But the maths never works. Why spend $1 billion developing an engine when you can just sell 10 Chirons to Dubai and call it a year? And honestly, the idea of Bugatti in F1 is hilarious. Their cars weigh as much as a small planet, with 1,500 horsepower engines built to cruise the Autobahn at 250 miles per hour in total silence. In Formula One, weight is the enemy, and silence doesn't win you races. Imagine a Chiron trying to get through Sainte-Devote. It would need Monaco widened by 3 meters. Bugatti's curse is that they're almost too exclusive. F1 is about building hundreds of engines, racing every other weekend, getting shouted at by Christian Horner. Bugatti prefers to build one-off art pieces, then watch billionaires drag race them against jets. They don't want the headache of Monaco, unless it's parking a Chiron on a yacht. Chevrolet Corvette has been America's answer to Ferrari since the 1950s. At Le Mans, they're legends. In F1, they never even showed up. Why? Because for decades, General Motors couldn't care less about Formula One. They had NASCAR, IndyCar, drag racing. Why risk global embarrassment in a sport dominated by Europeans when you can win at Daytona with a pushrod V8 and a cowboy hat? In the 1960s, there were wild rumors of a Corvette F1 project, but it never happened. The car was considered too heavy, too loud, too American. Basically, it was the racing equivalent of showing up to a French wine tasting with Bud Light. And Corvette's racing image is so tied to Le Mans that even today, when fans imagine an F1 Corvette, it feels wrong. Corvette is about green and yellow livery, thunderous V8s, and half the pit crew wearing Oakleys. F1 is about strategy meetings, tyre management, and a fuel flow sensor that costs more than a Corvette itself. Corvette fans still dream of an F1 entry, imagining a Stars and Stripes livery blasting past Ferraris. But let's be honest, F1 is about hybrid engines, carbon fiber, and politics. Corvette is about V8s, burnouts, and making Mustangs cry. The two worlds have never mixed, and probably never will. Remember when Toyota entered F1 in the early 2000s? They spent billions, had one of the biggest budgets ever, and still managed to achieve nothing. 0 wins, not even a fluke, just years of corporate embarrassment. Lexus, Toyota's luxury arm, watched that whole saga unfold and thought, yeah, we're good. Why get involved when your parent company just face-planted harder than a rookie at Eau Rouge? There was talk of Lexus branding Toyota's engines to make them look sexier. But in the end, Toyota pulled out in 2009, tail firmly between legs. Lexus stuck to making luxury saloons that whisper at you while massaging your back. And honestly, who can blame them? F1 is brutal. You don't survive on good intentions and leather seats. The closest Lexus has come to F1 is sponsoring events and reminding people they once made the LFA, a supercar that sounded like angels screaming through a kazoo, but a Lexus F1 team, about as likely as seeing Lewis Hamilton daily driving a Prius. And the sad part? The LFA showed Lexus could do world-class performance. They just don't have the appetite to burn billions proving it against Ferrari and Mercedes. So instead, they leave F1 alone, whispering softly from the sidelines, "We could've, but nah." Audi spent decades pretending F1 didn't exist. They dominated rally with the Quattro, crushed endurance racing with the R18, and then watched F1 from a distance like an aloof neighbor. Why bother when you're already winning everything else? But then, 2026 happened. Audi announced they're finally joining F1, entering as a full works team. Cue German efficiency jokes, PowerPoint presentations, and endless spy shots of secret test engines. Even better, they've already got a driver, Nico Hülkenberg. Yes, the man cursed to never get a podium is Audi's poster boy. Perfectly German, perfectly ironic. Fans are already joking. Audi's first big innovation might be inventing a car designed to finish exactly fourth. Still, this is huge. Audi in F1 means serious money, serious tech, and a new manufacturer war. After decades of sitting on the sidelines, they're finally suiting up. And you know what? Everyone else should be nervous. When Germans commit to something, they don't mess around. It took them ages to arrive, but if Audi's rally dominance and Le Mans streak taught us anything, it's that once they get rolling, they don't stop. Expect the grid in 2026 to suddenly smell faintly of Vorsprung durch Technik. If Audi is finally entering, Cadillac is going one step further. They're storming in with Andretti. That's right, the most famous American racing family is dragging Cadillac with them into F1. And the FIA, after months of playing will they won't they, finally gave the green light. It's a big deal. Cadillac, usually known for Escalades big enough to carry small planets, is suddenly building hybrid rocket ships for the world stage. Andretti Cadillac want to be the team that puts America back on the map in F1, and they've got drivers already lined up. Colton Herta has been heavily linked, and F1 fans are buzzing at the thought of another American on the grid. Imagine the Netflix episodes. Imagine the merch. Imagine the chaos when a Cadillac tries to take Eau Rouge flat. Of course, the skeptics are loud. Cadillac in F1, they'll never survive, but the same was said about Braun GP and they walked away with a championship. Cadillac's gamble could flop spectacularly, or it could be the start of an American revolution. Either way, it won't be boring. And if nothing else, the idea of Cadillac versus Ferrari headlines in Europe is hilarious. It's elegance versus Escalade, espresso versus supersized soda, and that clash alone makes Cadillac's F1 gamble worth watching.